This is a big giant loaf of bread. Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Brandon. This is kind of an off-the-wall video. It's going to cover a lot of ground, a lot of things. This is made at a bakery down here in Florida that uses all like natural stuff, like natural sea salt that hasn't been processed with the regular chemicals that other regular salt that you buy. See, what you don't realize is the sugar and salt is processed with chemicals. And what I'm realizing is it's those chemicals that cause our body the problems. It's not the actual sugar and salt as much as it is the chemicals. So if you eat a strawberry and it has sugar in it, it doesn't have the same adverse effects that if you go eat ice cream, okay? One causes cancer, one doesn't. So everything's like, you're like always a layer away from truth. And a lot of people will say, oh yeah, sugar's poison, sugar causes cancer. It's the things that they put on top. But anyway, I first came to this place and I just got this sandwich and it had these big thick pieces of bread. And so I got a sandwich because it's next to the place where I get my hair cut. And long story short, I've fallen in love with their bread, and I used to just buy sandwich after sandwich each day because I was like, now I'm getting my healthy dose of bread. My body feels completely better when I eat this healthy bread versus when I eat Tostitos or bread that you buy at the grocery or bread that you get at the restaurant with anything else. Like, I like to go to Longhorn Steakhouse to be able to get sweet potatoes and asparagus because you can't buy those at other fast food restaurants, and you can get food pretty quickly at Longhorn if you call ahead. And it's not expensive. I mean, you can get a sweet potato and asparagus for under $10, and that'll fill you up pretty well, and then you just need some protein. They used to have really good chicken at Longhorn, but about a month or two ago, they switched their supplier. Their chicken's no longer great. It's still good by most people's standards, but it's not good by my standards anymore. So I've been eating these rotisserie chickens that you buy at the grocery, which are still probably packed with hormones because the chicken's fat as fuck, you know. But it's really changing my ability to reason through my problems, okay? Because we're all faced with problems every day, and what I'm realizing is our intelligence and our ability to solve those problems instead of be overwhelmed, it has to do with our diet. And so the Chinese and the India people, they definitely believe that our stomach is like another brain. At least India people definitely do. In India, I definitely believe that. I think that every cell in our body is alive and conscious, which a lot of people are like, yeah, we believe that too. Yeah, but you don't really believe it. You don't really believe it. You think that this is your brain. You don't realize that every cell in your body is part of your brain. Okay? And so the more that you can eliminate the stress of your stomach having to go into like chaos mode of, like, imagine imagine that there's like a smorgasbord of good food up here, okay? And you don't have to think much about what food you're going to absorb and what food you're going to eat and what food you got to throw in the trash can. Meanwhile, pretend that there's a big assembly line of food coming down a conveyor belt, and you got shoes and dog shit and and then there's like a healthy sweet potato, and then you got something else that's unhealthy. And what you have to understand is, on a microscopic level, that's what your intestines are having to do when you eat bullshit. It's a conveyor belt that this tunnel that all of your fucking nutrients are going down, and they have to pick and choose, and they're under extreme stress because they're like, no, they're talking to each other. Don't eat that. Don't absorb that into the body. Shit that shit out, right? Piss that shit out. Okay, so you understand what I'm saying, okay? You're creating so much stress for your body when you put in things that it doesn't want to absorb. So just this bread that's made with natural ingredients, which you say, well, all bread's made with natural ingredients, Brandon. Yeah, but you don't understand how much other bullshit is involved in the bread. And so I was talking to this guy. I was like, what you really need to do is you need to find somebody who produces wheat to make the bread. And you need to make sure that that wheat provider doesn't use any chemicals on his wheat. And he's like, oh, it's all non-GMO. I was like, you don't understand. That's another layer of bullshit. The GMO is a genetically modified plant so that it can withstand the chemicals, the pesticides and different things. What you have to do is you have to find someone who doesn't use the pesticides at all. And that's very hard to find, okay? I've had really big revelations in the last, like, just eurekas in the last 72 hours now it's been. And it's really weird. I was like at kind of a really bad spot a little over a month ago, kind of like a rock bottom, and I was having huge anxiety, and I was taking out my frustration on my friends for not understanding the predicament that I was in, and because I've got this big website that I want to get launched, these ideas that I want to give to the world that are going to change the world, guys. The stuff I have it's off the charts, going to change things, okay? I feel like life is testing me, that when you're at rock bottom, what are your priorities? And I made a very conscious choice that I wanted to give my undivided attention for a very long amount of each day to literally just listening to, some people call it the Holy Ghost. If you're Catholic or, Mormon or whatever it is, Christians, they say it's the Holy Ghost. Some people call it the universe. Some people just say, oh, it's God. Some people say it's your intuition. But I'm telling you, there's way more to that, and I don't know if I'm going to be able to fit that all in this video. But I want to make another follow-up video about ether, and it actually scares me to talk about it because I feel like the things that I figured out are like sacred, because I feel like there's a puzzle. Like when it says God is light, and God said, let there be light, what you have to understand is the moment that you start to believe in ether, which is a smaller substrate, if you will, than atoms, then all of a sudden you realize that the domino effect across ether is light, and you realize that if ether behaved in a different manner, meaning this universe was constructed with slightly different laws of physics, where, like, let's say there wasn't a domino effect, like a wave, ocean wave, like a domino effect across ether, which is like a sound wave across ether, okay? It's not an ocean wave, it's not a wave between two surfaces of substance. Sound waves are like these spherical waves that emit out from our voice, that domino across high pressure, low pressure, high pressure, low pressure. Atoms get close, atoms get far, atoms get close, atoms get far from each other. It's a compression wave, and it's got a frequency, and that's your different hertz. And so those different frequencies are the la. Okay, so that's the frequency. How often it's happening per moment of time. Higher frequency, slower, lower frequency, right? So the point is, the electromagnetic spectrum, okay, which are all the different frequencies, that is simply the sound, if you will, the frequencies across ether. And some of those sounds across the ether our eyes can detect, which we call visible light. So arrogantly, it's what's visible to humans. Meanwhile, bees can see, their eyes are adapted to see ultraviolet light, which our eyes can't see. And then there's infrared, which is another frequency. And you got X-ray and gamma ray and radio waves and all these different frequencies that we've categorized. Us humans have said, this frequency is good for sending radio. This frequency is good for taking X-rays. This frequency is good for warming things up, the infrared. This frequency is good for what we see with our eyes. This frequency is ultraviolet. We can't see that shit, but bees can. Okay, this is gamma rays. This shit causes sunburns. Okay, so the point is, and so does ultraviolet and invisible light. But the point is, we have categorized so arrogantly what all these different frequencies mean, which is fine. It is what it is. But you got to realize that's to us, those frequencies, and what it means to us in our world. There's no cutoff point in real physics where it's like, here's all the X-rays, here's all the gamma rays, here's all the ultraviolet rays. No, it's a frequency that you can have a bazillion different grayscale iterations between, from one end of the spectrum to the other. Okay, there's a bazillion different frequencies from one end of the spectrum to the other. There's no gap. There's no like void between X-rays and radio waves. There's no gap. Okay, a lot of people don't understand that. And the invention of the photon is the biggest bunch of bullshit there ever was. A photon is simply a unit of measure of the damage that the waves can cause. There is no actual photon, but they've taken you down a rabbit hole because they are scared of you understanding ether. Okay, and I do know why it is. I think it leads to super weapons. I want to eat this bread, but I know I'm going to be talking like, if I eat this bread, but I want to eat this bread so much right now. I typed in this morning on Google, I typed in, ether is God. I wanted to see what would pop up. Now, those of you who know anything about Nikola Tesla, you know that he studied the Greek philosophers big time. And Greek mythology and Greek philosophy all stemmed from ancient Egyptian and the Alexandria, Library of Alexandria and everything. You guys know that the Vatican is sitting on like all these records that the only way you can view them is if you request them. But how are you going to request them if you don't know what's there? So they got these bazillions of records at the Vatican, okay, that you can request, and then they'll either grant or deny your request. But okay, so with all that said, the elites, somebody, right, is keeping this information for themselves, and knowledge is power. So they have all this information at their disposal. You say, well, they need to share it with the world. The problem is ether results in